to the mess that is Jixie's shed. Now I'm hunkering down because I'm close to the camera. I want to show you what's going on here. Also my legs are getting work out because this is like the 8th take I'm doing. First ones I forgot to press record, and the next ones my head was cut off. So AlgoLaser recently sent me this camera setup to go over the my 5-watt DIY laser and just help with the setup and make engravings a lot quicker and simpler to do. So when this arrived, it came with a little instruction manual that shows you how to set it up, but it's fairly straightforward what to do and how to go about it. But then it just simply screws onto the workbench itself. So now it could go at the back, but it was just space in here that was the issue. And then the next stage has got a bit more complicated in terms of calibration, but I will show you that in a minute of how I did that, and then we will also go on to making some Christmas decorations. So once the camera is set up physically, it is time to calibrate it, and firstly you've got to do the camera lens before you can do the camera alignment. So you go to Laser Tools, select the option, and then select the camera. Now this does suggest that you can actually use a different webcam as well, but obviously this one comes with its own support and it's purpose-built for the device. But yeah, so they sent initially the circles to do it with for the calibration pattern, but as the paper was rolled up, it kept curling up, so didn't really work well. I tried holding it down with magnets, but that just became a pain moving it around. So I clicked the click here to download the calibration pattern, and I downloaded the April tags, printed that off onto card, and it worked really well for this. And with the calibration, it's just a simple question of following what it shows up in the picture above for the area where you are going to be engraving or used in your engrave area. Now, I could possibly in the next time around actually bring the camera a bit lower, capture a bit more of the area, possibly make the detail a bit better, as you will see later. But this worked really well and was fairly simple to do. So once the camera lens calibration was done, it was time to move on to the alignment wizard, and this automatically pops up into the next part, or you could go and select it in Laser Tools. But at this point, my laser stopped operating, so I had to restart the whole thing, come back to this point. Once I managed to get the laser back up and running. I'm not sure what the issue was. I think it was just something with the emergency stop or something. But anyway, the scale on there was a 182, but that covered the whole area, as you can see there, and not the paper itself. Change that back to 100 and it will perfectly do it onto the paper, but just a few adjustments to get the paper in the right position. Now this was the first time I'm also printing onto paper or cutting with the laser onto paper, so it was getting that right, and initially my full speed everything was really high and it just didn't do anything on there. No images came out, so I stopped the process, reset it all, and started again. So here just going back to the calibration wizard and like I say, starting the process again. So full speed everything a lot less. I had to do this a couple of times to get it right and be happy with what the pattern I was getting. So with the markings in place, leaving the paper where it is, you can move to the next stage, capture the image, and it will show it all there. And from here you can zoom into each part, and as it suggests, click marker 1 first. So right in the center of the marker, you've got to click on each side. It will then draw a grid to complete the calibration itself. And then following that, you are ready to go. So once the calibration was done, it was time to add the camera control feature, and for that you had to go to Window. It did take me a little time to find this, but go to Camera Control and select the camera. Now there is an image that appears, but at this point I didn't realize I can actually move the menus around to make that more visible, but you will see that appearing later, and that will just show you as a live feed of the camera itself, so anything appearing underneath and how you're moving things. But then you click Update Overlay, and your what's on the laser bed will appear right there. So once that's all set up, I went to get the DXF file that I'd created. Now this was designs that I'd done on Affinity Designer a while back, with all different Christmas bauble designs, and it took, there was one area that was missing, and for some reason I struggled to get that one image exporting correctly, but I found a workaround later for that. But for now, it is just time to make sure I get the cut settings right. So there's a lot of testing here at various cut strengths. Of course, for some reason it wasn't doing exactly the same as it did previously, but yeah, we'll just run through that and see where we go. So with the camera calibrated and having placed the image onto the laser bed where you want it, using absolute coordinates as the origin point just works brilliantly at finding an exact place where you want it to cut, engrave, whatever. Now, this didn't cut all the way through on this first attempt, but then I'm keep testing on this and trying to get it right, and then I realized that the new ply that I'd bought is in the same thickness. Even though it was purchased as 2mm ply, which this sheet is, the new ones actually came out to about 1.5, 1.6mm thick. And this just meant that all the testing I've done here is sort of null and void, but it did help me play around with it, making sure I get what I want in the image is correct. So actually these lines in it I've forgotten to select properly because they were just engraving rather than cuts. Now with multiple passes, the lines were actually burned a bit thicker than I wanted, a bit darker, and it didn't quite come through yet, so yeah, still more work needed on that. So there you go. There's a window I mentioned that you can actually see the image, and it took me a while then to maneuver everything to how I wanted it. But there you can see the live feed quite clearly, and it's time to get the DXF file again. Now this was a different file, and even though I'd redone it, still didn't have that missing image. But for now, it was just a question of testing out with a different image as well. But yeah, this is where having the camera is very useful, because you can see on the piece where things have been engraved and arrange your new cuttings appropriately. However, at this point, Lightburn crashed, and when I loaded it back up, it wouldn't update the overlay again. It wanted me to run the alignment wizards all again. So back to the start we go, but this time it was a lot quicker to do as I was more familiar with the whole process. might have had the laser settings a bit hard because somebody they actually cut it out, but with it staying in position, that didn't matter. It just gave a really clear, well-defined image. So back to the start we go. So this time the speed and power settings a bit better for the cutting of the new ply, but then just making sure I get all the lines right for what I want cut and engraved within the images. A little correction, because with the DXF file for some reason a couple of the lines had moved. There's a few extra details I wanted to add as I changed my mind of how they were going to print out. So yeah, just a little scarf on the snowman, getting a mouth with better. Now this was initially supposed to cut, but then I realized afterwards I'd set those to engrave, but ultimately it all turned out really nice. You will see at the end. And even though all the designs were done in a different program, with being able to export to a DXF file, it's great because I can still adjust the lines, amend aspects of the pictures as need be, ready for the final engraving. So you can just see a live feed of me updating the position and starting the printing. Now you will see in the top corner the timing is saying 88 hours. So I've made a mistake there somewhere. In the cut settings, you will see in a moment, I had put loads of stuff as fill instead of line, where only one of the things were meant to be fill. I can't remember what that was for. Oh, that was the eyes of characters and the buttons of the snowman. But sorted that and then restarted the whole process. There we go. And this time it worked perfectly. There was a few I found in my design where with how I did the design there were some double lines that had appeared, so it ended up going over certain areas twice, which made it a bit harder, or made some of the lines a bit darker, but it was hard to figure out where those lines were. But I figured out what was going on and I know now how to correct that next time. Now there was quite a few delicate areas within these pictures, but the laser handled them really well and they all came out really crisp and clear. However, you can see not everything burned right through at the 150 power setting. So I redid the whole thing on another piece of ply, so another hour or so of burning, but this time I changed the lines, the power settings to 100 and speed down to 100 as well, and it all cut out perfectly at that point, but just delicate removal of each piece. And then I've created some Bible verses to go on the back of each bauble, and this is great where I could import those verses, quickly test it out a few times on other pieces of ply that I'd used before to get the right engraving settings, and then place all the discs on the work area, and with the image there I can arrange them perfectly onto the discs as to how I want them. Now I did find that I may have to redo the alignment section a bit because they printed a little bit higher than intended, but all came out on the discs, but not quite where I was thinking I was placing them, so a bit of playing around still with the laser needed. So the way I imported the text was, I think, an SVG file rather than an image file, which meant that it was doing this random pattern of engraving rather than straight across for each line. But I've tested it with an image as well, and this was a lot quicker than doing an image. I'm not sure why, but this worked really well and I was very happy with the result. Now, coming to this one, once it finished here, the laser did cut out. Why this happened, I don't know. But with the camera, and this was a benefit of having it, I could deselect the ones I've done, make sure that the ones that I've not yet done is properly aligned again, and to restart the process exactly where they needed to be. So definitely a great benefit of that. And once all the printing was done, I was then able to color the backgrounds with using spirit stains and crimson guitar stains to do the background, give different colors. And this worked really well, just highlighting the piece and giving it that unique feel to it, and much more festive as well. And I think the Chestnut products of royal blue and purple was my favorite colors in this. And then using O3 adhesives to just stick the pieces together. Now the little stars there was from another project I was working on, which I'll put out as a video later, but gave me all these little stars. So there's a couple of items where I was, like the Christmas tree and the snowman, where I could use the little stars as additionals. Well, thank you for joining me in Jigsaw Shed. I hope you found this useful. Remember to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and a happy new year to you all.